The finger. I moved in on a Thursday. The apartment was tucked away on the edge of the city. Not quite abandoned, but not somewhere people just happened to pass by. The kind of place that felt like it had been forgotten by time. The rent was cheap, no neighbors in sight, and the landlord seemed eager to get it off his hands. That should have been a red flag. But at the time, it felt like luck. The place was sparse, cold too. Old wooden floorboards that creaked even under soft steps. Walls yellowed with age. The light switches made a sound when flicked, but the bulbs took their time to respond. Still, I didn't care. I needed somewhere quiet, somewhere to be alone. I spent the afternoon unpacking. Kitchen stuff, clothes, a few boxes of things I never really used. Then I noticed something strange in the main room. A dip in the far wall, like a panel had been fitted into it. The paint didn't quite match. I got curious and started tapping. Hollow. I pressed the edge with my thumb and the panel shifted. A small door, no more than a square foot wide, popped open with a soft creak. Inside a box. It looked old. Dark wood, scratched, with a brass clasp. I took it out and placed it on the floor. When I opened the lid, I froze. Inside was a finger, shriveled, brownish grey, like dried leather. The nail still had a faint trace of red polish. It had been severed clean, right at the second joint. I stared at it for a long time, and then something in me sank. A deep, cold feeling in my stomach, because I knew that finger, or at least I was certain I did. I slammed the box shut. My hands were trembling as I shoved it back inside the compartment and slammed the little door closed. I backed away from the wall, breathing hard. I pulled out my phone and called the landlord. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I'll call him tomorrow, I whispered to myself. But even as I said it, I already knew I wouldn't sleep that night. I must have fallen asleep sometime after midnight. The room was cold and the air felt heavy. I don't remember dreaming, not at first. Just a thick, dark silence pressing against me like a second skin. Then I heard it, faint, muffled, a sound like crying. A woman's voice, distant, strained, like it was coming through the walls. I sat up and reached for the lamp, but when I flipped the switch, nothing. No power. The lights were out. The digital clock on the nightstand was blank. There'd been blackouts. The landlord had mentioned it. Something about the building's wiring. But still, this didn't feel like just a power cut. The crying continued. Soft, almost like a child weeping. But there was something off about it. A rhythm to it, a kind of slow, guttural grief. I grabbed my phone. No signal, but the flashlight worked. I stepped out into the corridor. Pitch black. The kind of darkness that makes you feel like you're underwater. The crying was clearer now, echoing faintly through the floorboards. I couldn't tell what direction it came from. It felt like it surrounded me. I moved slowly, light flickering across peeling wallpaper and door frames that hadn't been opened in years. Every apartment I passed looked abandoned. No lights, no sounds, no life. I took the stairs down. The crying grew louder with each step, pulling me deeper into the building, until I found myself at the door to the basement. I hesitated. The door creaked open with a long, breathy groan. The air hit me, damp and cold, smelling of rust and mold. The sound was clearer now, definitely a woman. Crying, hiccuping, murmuring something I couldn't understand. I stepped in. My My light swept over piles of broken furniture, tangled wires, rotted wood. Rats scurried out of view. And then I saw it. The box. The same wooden box from the hidden wall compartment, resting in the corner of the basement. But I had put it away. I know I had. I moved closer, unable to stop myself. My hands shook as I crouched down. The crying was right next to me now. Not from a direction anymore, but all around me, inside me. I opened the lid, and from inside the box, a hand shot out. It grabbed my face. Fingernails dug into my skin, and before I could scream, something gouged into my eye with a sickening pop. I howled in pain as blood streamed down my cheek. I stumbled backward, and then she began to crawl out. Her skin was grey, waterlogged, stretched thin over bones. Her hair hung in wet clumps. Her mouth opened, soundless at first, and then came the scream I'd been hearing all along. She was pulling herself out of the box, even though it was far too small for her. Her arms snapped at wrong angles, her spine arched like an insect's, bones cracking as she unfolded out of the impossible space. I fell, and just before she reached me, I woke up. I jolted awake, gasping, drenched in sweat. The room was dark. For a moment, I just lay there, listening to my own heartbeat pounding against my chest. My hands went instinctively to my face. Both eyes were there. No blood, no pain. It was just a dream. I sat up and reached for the lamp again. Nothing. Still no light. I stared at the switch, flicked it a few more times. The same hollow click, but no response. I reached for my phone. The screen lit up, but no signal, no Wi-Fi. The clock read 3:12 a.m. Exactly like in the dream. I swallowed hard. It had to be the blackout again. The landlord had mentioned the elevator was old, and sometimes when the motors overheated, it knocked out power to the whole floor. Something about the wiring being all tied together like spaghetti. Yeah, that's all this was. Worn out infrastructure. Coincidence. But I didn't feel safe. Not really. I didn't even want to close my eyes again. So I just sat there, frozen, listening. No crying, no footsteps, nothing. I felt a rush of relief start to wash over me. And then I heard it. A faint sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was slow, delicate, like a fingernail dragging across wood. I didn't want to believe it, not after what I'd just dreamed. But the sound was real. I held my breath, leaned forward. It was coming from inside the wall, from the hidden compartment. I stood up, trembling, moved to the far wall. The panel was closed, but the scratching was louder now, more deliberate, like something, or someone, wanted out. I opened it. The box was there. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't touch it at first, just looked. The lid trembled, barely, like something inside it was shifting. Number I wasn't going to open it. I pulled it out, wrapped it tightly with a necktie twice, then shoved it into a duffel bag. I didn't even stop to change clothes, just threw on a hoodie and grabbed my keys. I ran down the stairs, past the empty hallway, through the wet lobby, out into the rain. I didn't care where I went. I just needed to get away. The rain hadn't let up. It came down in long wind-push sheets that made the world outside the windshield look like it was melting. I drove. No music, no radio, just the soft mechanical rhythm of the wipers and the occasional rattle of the box shifting in the duffel bag on the passenger seat. I tied it tight. I hadn't looked at it since. The road curved toward the highway, then away from it, then toward the hills. I wasn't even sure where I was going at first, but eventually I knew. I was heading toward the bridge. That bridge had always felt like a last resort. As I drove, memories surfaced. They always did when I was alone too long. Her name was Lara. She was the kind of woman people described as resilient. Strong, but not loud about it. She had a way of looking at you like she already knew what you were going to say, and whether it was worth hearing. When we met, we had nothing. But we were young, and that made it feel like enough. Then came the sickness, cancer. It started small, a lump, a surgery, hope. Then it spread, and hope became a hospital room we couldn't afford. We tried everything, sold our car, moved into smaller places, got rid of the few nice things we had. I took whatever jobs I could find, but it was never enough. The bills kept coming, and the medicine she needed was the kind insurance might have helped with, if we'd had any. She grew weaker, I grew bitter. I remember the night everything snapped. I'd been drinking. She'd been crying. We said things we shouldn't have, things you can't take back. She told me I hadn't tried hard enough, that I let her die before she was dead, that if our roles were reversed, she would have fought harder for me. I pushed her, harder than I meant to. She hit her head on the edge of the kitchen counter, stood back up, bleeding, and grabbed the cast iron pan. She swung it, connected with my temple. I saw stars and rage. There was a knife on the sink. I didn't think. I just reacted. I slashed at her hand, the one holding the pan. She screamed, dropped it. I lunged. I don't remember the rest clearly, just that I was on top of her, my hands on her neck, her eyes wide, then slowly, not. When it was over, I just sat there for hours. The next morning, I wrapped her in tarp and drove to the swamp a few miles out. It was cold, foggy. I remember thinking the place looked like it had never seen sunlight. I dumped her in the water. But when I got home, something was still there. A finger. Her finger. The one I'd sliced when I grabbed the knife. It had come clean off. I panicked, threw it into the fireplace. The skin bubbled, popped. And then, I swear to God, I heard her crying. Just once. Since then, no matter where I've gone, that finger finds me. I've changed names, cities, states, rented, squatted, slept in cars, but always the finger shows up, wrapped in that same old box. And every time it does, the dreams return. The crying, the basement, the scream. I reached the bridge just before dawn. The rain still came down, hard and cold, slicing sideways through the wind. The river below roared in the darkness, black water churning like something alive. I pulled over at the midpoint, the highest place. No cars, no lights, just the sound of the storm and the thrum of my heart. I stepped out with the box in my hand, still tied shut, still trembling slightly in my grip, like something inside it knew. The wind howled through the steel rails, carrying with it old echoes and forgotten voices. I walked to the edge. My hands were soaked. The box slipped once and I had to grab it tighter. "This ends here," I whispered. I didn't know who I was talking to. Myself. Her. God. I looked down at the water. "You always said I didn't do enough, that I didn't try hard enough, that I gave up." I laughed bitterly. "You think I haven't paid? Every day, Lara. Every day I wake up and I see your face in the dark. I hear you in the silence. You were already dead long before I killed you. The box twitched. I squeezed it tighter. I should have left you. I should have run before the sickness, before everything went to hell. I should have just walked away. I raised the box above my head. This is the last time, I said. No more nightmares, no more fingers, no more of you. I threw it, but just before it left my hand, the lid burst open. A pale hand shot out. Flesh bloated, skin blue-grey, nails cracked, and one finger missing. The hand grabbed me by the hair, yanked hard. I screamed, and then I was falling. The box still in my grip, the hand still wrapped around my head, rain blinding my eyes. Her scream rising with me, or maybe it was mine. I couldn't tell any more. And then, nothing.